Title: The Berlin Conference, Scramble for Africa. 1. Europe in the late 19th century *. Here, we dive into the political environment of Europe in the 1880s. Major powers were vying for global dominance, their national ambitions fueled by the rapid industrialization that occurred during the Industrial Revolution. Increased production capacities created a demand for raw materials and markets, a catalyst for colonial expansion. 2. The birth of the Berlin Conference *. Otto von Bismarck, the Chancellor of Germany, invited several European countries to a conference in Berlin in 1884. The goal was to settle disputes over territories in Africa and establish guidelines for future colonization to maintain European peace. 3. Opening of the conference * on November 15, 1884, the conference was officially opened. Bismarck hosted delegates from 14 countries, including Britain, France, Portugal, and Belgium, amongst others. The stage was set for negotiations that would shape Africa's political map without the involvement of its people. 4. Africa's resources * each country had its sights set on Africa's vast natural resources. The continent was rich in lucrative commodities like gold, rubber, oil, and diamonds. These resources were vital for fueling Europe's growing industries. 5. The doctrine of effective occupation *. The participating nations agreed that land claims had to be backed by military force or actual governance, a concept known as effective occupation. This doctrine required nations to establish not only a presence in, but also control over the territories they claimed. 6. Division of Africa * over the next few months, European nations divided Africa with abandoned disregard for ethnic and linguistic lines. New borders were drawn on maps, often slicing through communities, leading to the political fragmentation and conflicts seen in Africa today. 7. The role of King Leopold II * King Leopold II of Belgium acquired the Congo Free State as his private property. His brutal exploitation of the territory became infamous for the atrocities committed against the local population in the quest for rubber extraction. 8. The ignored African voice *. Notably missing from the conference were representatives from Africa. The indigenous people had no say in the reallocation of their lands. This exclusion meant decisions made were inherently biased towards European interests and would have long-term consequences. 9. Impact on African societies * The sudden changes imposed by the new borders led to the disruption of African social systems. Traditional leadership structures were undermined, and local economies were reshaped to serve colonial needs. 10. Resistance and revolts * Despite the heavy-handed approach of the colonizers, numerous African societies resisted European domination. However, most of their efforts were quashed due to the superior military technology and organization of the Europeans. 11. Nature of European pacts * The treaties signed at the conference were often vague and left room for interpretation, causing friction between European nations in later years. Agreements were primarily focused on appeasing European interests. 12. Strategic locations and trade routes * The allocation of territories was also influenced by strategic considerations, such as control over critical trade routes and ports, essential for maintaining and expanding naval power. 13. The aftermath for Germany * Germany, a relatively new nation at the time, secured territories in West and Southwest Africa. These acquisitions were seen as a means to elevate Germany's position as a colonial power. 14. France's quest for empire * France emerged with extensive holdings across North, West, and Central Africa, which would later form the backbone of the French Empire. 15. British imperialism's expansion * Britain sought to connect its colonized territories from the north to the south of Africa, a vision embodied by the Cape to Cairo Railway, reflecting its strategic interests. 16. Portugal's African interests, Portugal maintained its historical presence in Angola and Mozambique, despite not being as dominant as other powers, positioning itself in the colonial race. 17. Italy's late arrival, Italy entered the colonial competition later, securing territories in the Horn of Africa, such as Eritrea and part of Somalia, struggling to establish itself as a colonial power. 18. Imperialism's costs on Africa, the division of Africa, led to the exploitation of its people and resources, with wealth flowing out of Africa and into European coffers, entrenching economic disparities. 19. Cultural displacement, European dominance often resulted in cultural suppression, with African religions, languages, and traditions undermined or erased. 20. Infrastructure developments, while some infrastructure like railways and ports were developed, they primarily served the economic interests of the colonizers rather than the development needs of local populations. 21. The role of missionaries, European missionaries often played dual roles, spreading Christianity and European values while aiding in the colonial agenda by preparing locals for European rule. 22. Colonial legal systems, European legal systems were imposed, leading to the displacement of traditional African law and justice systems, contributing to societal disruption. 23. Education policies, educational efforts, aim to produce a class of local elites to assist in colonial administration, but often these systems were underfunded and ignored indigenous knowledge and languages. 24. Linguistic impact, language policies resulted in the spread of colonial languages like English, French, and Portuguese, impacting Africa's cultural identity and unity. 25. Consequences of artificial borders, the borders drawn often disregarded existing political or cultural landscapes, leading to conflicts and tensions that continue to affect African politics today. 26. The decline of indigenous industries, African crafts, and local industries suffered as European goods flooded markets, creating dependency on imported products. 27. Environmental degradation, resource extraction resulted in significant environmental damage, from deforestation to soil depletion, impacting local agriculture and biodiversity. 28. Psychological and social impacts, colonial rule inflicted psychological scars, threatening communal bonds and introducing social hierarchies based on colonial power structures.